Hey, what's up everybody? It's your buddy Preston, back with another video. Today we are going to take a look at the 2021 NFL Draft, the first round. I'll tell you what I like, what I didn't like. It was interesting. It's always fun. It's my favorite event of the year. I absolutely love it. I hope you enjoyed it. And we got 6 more rounds coming, so it's going to be an exciting weekend. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. Preston_sports over on Twitter. We'll post there, let you know what's going on. Give us a follow if you like and subscribe, all that stuff. Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock at number 1. They go with Trevor Lawrence. We've known this for months. The guy's ability is off the charts. One of the best prospects we've seen since Andy Luck. I'm not telling you anything you don't know about that. Jacksonville as a whole, I worry about a little bit. You have Urban Meyer coming in. This is a guy who has had tremendous success everywhere he's shown up, at least initially, before it all kind of falls apart. So I do expect it to work in the short term. The problem is Urban Meyer's a guy who's retired 3 times in 11 years in college, where he had all the best players, he had all the power. Now he's going to the NFL. He's not going to have that. The best players every week, not even by a long shot. So it's going to be a culture shock. I'm rooting for all these guys. I'm certainly rooting for Trevor Lawrence. He's obviously wildly talented, and I think he'll have early success. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. You never know. You know what they're going to get into. They had a second pick in this first round we'll talk about later that I wasn't a huge fan of. But we'll talk a little more about Jacksonville later. Sorry about that. All right. Number 2 was the Jets. They've been talking about Zach Wilson for a couple months now. He's a guy that jumped up the draft board. I've seen him listed as the best quarterback in this draft, even over Trevor Lawrence. Chris Sims likes him a lot, and Chris Sims is excellent at what he does. Me personally, I wasn't big on Zach Wilson. He has some problems in terms of his ego, and he thinks his arm is a little bit better than it is. He has exceptional arm talent. I'm not saying it's bad, but he really takes some chances, and you can get away with that in college, especially when you're not playing great competition. In the NFL, those windows are a little smaller, and you got to throw guys open to an extent. So there's quite an adjustment coming for Zach Wilson. The problem necessarily isn't Zach Wilson. His arm talent's amazing. He's got good athleticism. He's a little undersized. I worry about that, especially for a guy who likes to get out on the edge. These defensive ends in the NFL now are absolute beasts, and it's dangerous out there for a guy that small. So he's got some things to overcome, but the arm talent is certainly there. He's an outstanding prospect. You're going to ask him to start immediately. He's probably a kid that would benefit by sitting a little bit. But the real problem is he went to the Jets, and certainly recently they haven't had a lot of success in terms of evaluating guys that they're bringing into the building and then developing them properly. Robert Saleh, the new head coach, we'll see how it goes for him, but an interesting pick. Not necessarily good, not necessarily bad. It's one of those things. We'll see how it works out, but not a lot of optimism in terms of their ability to surround him with good players and then develop him properly. They're going to have to prove they can do that given their recent struggles. San Francisco at number 3. This was the huge question. Not for a second did I buy that they were going to pick Mac Jones. You don't move that much resources. You don't give up that much to get up to 3 and then take a guy with a ceiling lower than 4 other guys in the draft. It didn't seem right to me. It seemed like a smoke screen, and that's the way it turned out. They go Trey Lance, North Dakota State, fantastic prospect, probably my second or third. Yeah, probably my second best quarterback in this draft in terms of their potential. Now, it matters where these guys go. Obviously, Shanahan in San Francisco. A lot of success developing young talent, young quarterbacks in particular. So I think he landed at the perfect spot. I think with Jimmy Garoppolo there to help him along over this first, well, you hope year, but with Garoppolo's help, you expect sometime in week 6 or 7 the kid's going to have to take over for an injury. But I love it. It's a great pick. It's a great fit. It'll allow them to do some more things outside of the pocket and have a little more success on unscripted plays. Obviously, Garoppolo not the greatest on when the play breaks down. So it'll be interesting to see how long he gets to sit. The longer the better with Trey Lance. He's very raw prospect. But he's had an incredible release, a very quick release, good arm talent. You clean up his footwork, you'll improve his accuracy. Like I said, he's raw, but a good fit, a good prospect, and I kind of like what they're doing out there in San Francisco. Number 4, the Atlanta Falcons take Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was the best non-quarterback prospect in this draft. He's an absolute beast. If you ask me 5 years from now, who's going to be the guy that, with a Hall of Fame potential, having a Hall of Fame career, Kyle Pitts would be the guy I select. Phenomenal talent. He's not going to help you out much in the blocking game, but you're not drafting him to block. He's a wide receiver and a tight end body. Absolute beast. The problem is Atlanta has a lot of holes, and they got a lot of problems on defense, and they have an old quarterback. He's still got a year or two of being really good, but I think I would have been looking at Matt Ryan's replacement here with Justin Fields still on the board, but they decided to go tight end. Now, he's an incredible talent. Like I said, the best talent in this draft, probably outside of Lawrence. The issue is taking a tight end at 4. It's an extremely violent position. These guys get hurt all the time. Their availability is always an issue. We can talk about Jordan Reed and all these guys that have come before. It's just such a violent position that I really don't like to see teams spend such a high draft pick on one. But he is the best one in many, many years. So I think they'll have success. That offense is loaded with Calvin Ridley. And, I think they'll be good. Offensively, but they better address some defensive positions with the rest of this draft. Number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals go with Jamar Chase over top of Sewell at tackle. I think that's a mistake. Before we get to that, let's address Chase. Chase is a great talent. He was the best wide receiver in this draft. Elite talent. High pointing the ball, strong hands, quick, in and out of breaks, route trees, all these things we could talk about. He checks every single box, and he's going to be wildly exciting to watch here in Cincinnati. I am in Cincinnati. I'm wearing a Hushmanzada Pro Bowl jersey right now, so I was always rooting for the Bengals. It's very difficult. But this pick, I love and hate, because Sewell, you have Joe Burrow. He's already taken injury. You have the worst offensive line, according to PFF, in the league. Absolutely horrible in terms of protection and running the ball. And on no part of this offensive line does well. Inside, outside, running, pass protection, it's all very, very bad. They did some things to address it. They brought in Riley Reef, and they're getting Su'a-Filo back. So there's some things to be happy about on the offensive line moving forward, but this was an absolute golden opportunity for them to pick a player that was right there, that addresses their most urgent need. Sewell's going to be fantastic for the next 12 years, but they go with the receiver. So the receiver's outstanding. He's going to be their number 1. You're going to have Boyd at number 2, and then Higgins in the slot. He'll have a great amount of success in the slot. So the receiving core is phenomenal. I don't worry about that. That helps shore it up. They have to address the interior part of the line and right tackle with the second and third picks of this draft. If they don't, the chase pick's not going to matter. You're not going to have enough time to get him the ball anyway. So address the line, improve the running game, take some of the pressure off Burrow. Last year they asked him to throw 50, 60 times a game. It was ridiculous. It was obvious he was going to get hurt behind that line. So not what I would have done, but they do get an outstanding player, probably the third best player in this draft behind Lawrence and Pitts. And it's going to be very exciting to watch. How this draft works out for the Bengals moving forward is going to depend on what they do with the second and third round picks they have. They need to get Jenkins, I think, still available. Walker Little. There's some guys that can help, but they can't take any risk in the second and third round. Miami Dolphins, after moving around, they end up at 6 with their guy Jalen Waddle. They were hot on him all off season. He shores up a wide receiving group that really did need a little more explosiveness. He's going to be good there. They have a lot of other needs, but they have a lot of other picks. That coaching staff has been amazing. What they got out of that roster last year was incredibly impressive. Tua Tagovailoa is the issue in Miami. Is he going to work out? Last year, I was very adamant, if you check my social media, about picking Herbert over Tua. I thought that was the obvious choice. They decided to go the other way. As a bit of a Dolphin fan, I was a huge Marino fan, so I followed them and I root for them a little bit. But I really wanted to see them take Herbert. So this pick is good. It addresses a need. I like it a lot. But is Tua going to be the guy? Is he going to be able to stay healthy with that hip and all those things? A lot of things to work out in Miami. But when you're having this kind of success during your rebuild, it's hard to argue what they're doing down there. Penei Sewell drops to Detroit at 7. Outstanding offensive tackle out of Oregon, the best tackle on the board, probably your 4th best player if you want to put him 3rd above Chase or something in this draft. Outstanding player. I cannot believe he fell to 7. I really expected Cincinnati to pick him. If not, Miami really could have used him to shore up their right tackle position. They got a guy that can move inside down there. So Detroit gets lucky. They got Goff in the building. He obviously is not the same quarterback under pressure as he is when the pocket is clean. So protecting him becomes a priority. They really have to get some skill position players for him. I expect them to be aggressive in that in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. But a good pick, very, very good pick. They get a top 5 player, bare minimum, down at 7, and it addresses one of their needs. Good job, Detroit. You can't say that every year, but I think they got that pick right. J.C. Horn goes 8 to the Panthers. Now, the Panthers could have done a lot of different things. They go with cornerback. He's a big-time pressure guy, and they like to run a lot of off-man coverages there in Carolina, so the scheme fit a little bit questionable, but he was the 2nd best corner in this draft before Farley's back surgery. Farley probably was going to be your number 1 corner, followed by J.C. Horn. But he ends up being the best corner. They spent every single pick on defense last year, so I expect the other, they got 6-7 picks coming up this year to all be on offense. They really need to address the offensive side of the ball. I expected them to look at tackle here, Slater, once the pick came in, because, trying to keep McCaffrey healthy. He's an outstanding athlete. You want to do everything you can to keep him on the field. I expected them to go tackle. They go cornerback, but it does happen to be the best cornerback available and probably the best one in the draft, depending on how Farley and his back works out. Now, the Denver Broncos, this was the most interesting pick in the top 10 because of Aaron Rodgers. A lot of news came out right before the draft yesterday about Aaron Rodgers wanting out of Green Bay, and the Broncos certainly interested. They have a history of bringing in guys like Peyton Manning, so not completely happy with Drew Lock. So this pick of Patrick Surtain, the 2nd at 9, number 1, it's a good pick. It would address a need for them. Everybody needs depth at corner. Their secondary is not awful, and they could have gone a million different directions with this pick because they have a lot of needs. But to bring in a cornerback is fine. Now, I'm thinking this cornerback is going to end up in Green Bay because if the rumors are true, and you have Mark Schlereth was on top of this yesterday, and what he says is usually golden, especially when it comes to Denver football. I think they're working on a deal to get Rodgers there, and if they are, that pick is probably part of that package. So they ended up Broncos, or I believe the Packers ended up taking a cornerback later. Maybe they're going to end up swapping corners, but I don't know. This all depends on Aaron Rodgers in terms of the pick and what they're doing. I like their skill position players in Denver. They have to address that quarterback. Now, they passed up on Justin Fields there. So I don't know that all reports indicate that they're not happy with Drew Lock, and if you're not and you pass up on Justin Fields, you better have another plan, and that plan seems to be Aaron Rodgers. We'll see if it works out that way. Patrick Surtain, the player, is a phenomenal athlete. His father played for the Dolphins, and the Chiefs had a lot of success. Was a very good player. The problem with Surtain, if you go back and look at his college tape, he's very handsy. And a lot of those big plays that he made in college would be penalties in the NFL. So getting him in with a coaching staff that understands that and can teach him to play a little less aggressively, use his athleticism and his speed and motion and hip control a little bit more than his strength in terms of getting his hands on receivers. That's really where he's going to need to improve. So an outstanding player, clean up a couple things with him. If he's well coached, he will be a very good cornerback in the league for a long time. The Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, man, Eagle fans, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Look, you did some moving around. You've made your bed with Jalen Hurts. I don't know how that's going to work out. You gave up resources here and there. You got some back. You traded them away again. You move up. You move to I don't know exactly what your plan is in Philadelphia, but you take Devontae Smith, a wide receiver out of Alabama, 166 pounds. That's the issue with him. His athleticism, his production is off the charts. I worry about Alabama guys. They're not always they have an all-star team there, and they're not always playing great competition. Their numbers seem to be inflated, and they always seem to get drafted a few picks higher than they probably should based on their talent because of that Alabama bump. But his athleticism and production, like I said, it's off the charts. You worry about his size. It's not everything, but it is something. It's a concern. When you're out there running around, these safeties are big and fast. These linebackers are getting so much better at coverage in terms of the middle of the field. You better be careful out there because that frame, when you're asking it to take hits from 240-pound monsters, 260, 80-pound monsters, it's going to be tough. So learn how to get down, learn how to get out of bounds, do what you can to limit your risk in terms of taking hits, and maybe you can last a long time in the league. Deshaun Jackson's lasted a long time in the league and had a lot of success with a smaller frame. So there's guys out there that have done it, but you got to be smart. The problem is Philadelphia. He's in Philly. I don't know what they're doing there. So, yeah, I'm rooting for all these guys. If every player in this draft ends up being a great football player, that's great for the league. It's great for football fans. So I'm rooting for all of them. But, man, I really worry about Devontae Smith. Not only his frame, but where he's ended up. Eagle fans, enjoy that Super Bowl you got a few years ago because it's going to get a little rough for a few years, I think, for you there. Chicago at 11 made this may end up being the best move in the draft when we look back at it in a few years, getting up to 11 and getting their guy Justin Fields. There was a report about him battling epilepsy over his life, and I think that may have caused him to fall down a little bit. Anytime you mention a chronic health problem with a young player coming into the league, GMs will get a little a little nervous about that. But personally, I think Fields could end up being the second best quarterback in this draft. All the tools are there now. He's, again, you worry about the competition he playing at Ohio State, not, you know, a bit of an all-star team. Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, these are phenomenal rosters with a lot of guys heading into the NFL, and a lot of them are not playing very good competition week to week. So in the NFL, he's going to face a much higher level of difficulty in terms of processing what he sees on the football fields. I saw a lot of guys who were not happy with Justin Fields' progressions and the way he works through his routes, but I didn't see it. I watched a lot of tape. He seemed to move his eyes. He seemed to look off safeties fairly well. Not great. I wouldn't put him, in an elite class in terms of that stuff. But I thought he was okay for a young player. What I really worry about is his feet. He gets happy feet. He breaks the pocket a little sooner than he should sometimes. That affects timing. It affects how you can get the ball downfield. I'd like to see him step up in the pocket a little bit more instead of breaking laterally. But the arm talent's there. He can make every throw on the field. When you break the pocket early, not only do you got to worry about the plays you're missing and the open receivers that you're missing downfield, but you also got to worry about getting hurt. Every time you break the pocket, especially when you're talking about getting out on the edge, these defensive ends are not like they used to be. 20 years ago, defensive ends are not like they are now. They're all huge and fast and monsters and built like tanks, and they will get you. So I worry about a guy whose first instinct is to get out on the edge and make a play out there. And he can make plays out there. It's beautiful to watch, actually, some of the ways, some of the throws he can make off balance, out of the pocket, off script. But you got to stay healthy. You got to be smart. So learn to stay in the pocket. You got to trust your linemen a little bit. The Bears probably going to address that later in the draft. They got some holes offensively to fill to help him out. But getting up to 11 and bringing in Justin Fields, an absolutely masterful move by the Bears, and I think it'll work out for him. I think he'll end up having an okay career as long as you can settle him down, get him a little more on script, and clean up that footwork. Dallas Cowboys, they traded down 2 spots with the Eagles. I forgot to mention that with the Eagles. Another thing I didn't like. I don't know what you're doing, Eagles. Dallas trading with the Eagles, going back a couple spots and still getting their player, Micah Parsons. They really wanted a corner at 10, but you had a couple corners go right in front of them, which really derailed their plan. So they move back. They pick up some resources. They go with Micah Parsons, probably the best defensive player in this draft. The cornerbacks went in front of them, but linebackers tend to slip a little bit, but I love the pick. It was a need for them. I'm not going to spend too much time on Micah Parsons. Dallas, bringing in CeeDee Lamb, they've had some success over the past couple years in bringing in talented players. I'd like to see McCarthy put it all together a little bit better. Their consistency is not great. Obviously, last year Dak was hurt, but if you look at what they're doing offensively, very inconsistent given the talent they have on that side of the ball. So their defense has a lot of holes. They're going to go with more defensive players during this draft. They do need to rebuild that offensive line, but a good pick. Micah Parsons, they wanted him, they got him, and they picked up some resources in the process. Good job, Dallas Cowboys. The Los Angeles Chargers, this was perfect. They had the second worst PFF grade last year in terms of offensive line units. If I remember correctly, I think they were second worst, right behind the Bengals. So picking up Rashawn Slater, they worry about Slater's arm length. He's got shorter arms. He may have to move inside. Given how well he produced on the field, I'm not sure that's accurate. I think at very worst he can play right tackle for you at a high level. But no matter how they use him, the Chargers got an outstanding player with the 13th pick. He should have gone higher. It addresses their major need. You want to keep Justin Herbert upright and as healthy as possible. He is the future of your franchise. Rashawn Slater is going to help that out a lot. Playing in Northwestern, he didn't play against elite talent every week. So you want to see during the preseason how well he handles some of the guys on your starting squad. But I think it's going to work out. I like that pick a lot. Good job. Chargers, they're heading in the right direction. I cannot believe the Dolphins let them get Herbert at 6. The New York Jets with their second pick. Now they trade up for a guard. You do not see that very often. Guards tend to be undervalued in the league with how much we talk about the quarterback and how much we talk about protection and how running the ball, especially inside, not only wears down a defense but helps protect your quarterback. All these things we talk about with the offensive line, and still the guard position is undervalued, which allowed them to get the best guard in the draft at 14. Now, some people believe Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC can play right tackle. I haven't seen anything to indicate that he wouldn't have success at that position in the NFL. But there's a lot of people thinking he's going to move inside. Either way, the Jets get a good player to protect their first-round quarterback investment. Zach Wilson, I'm sure, is happy about that pick. We talked a lot about the Jets earlier, so I'm not going to spend too much time there. I think it's a good pick. I can understand if Jet fans are upset. Maybe you spent some resources that you could have used later to move up just to get a guard. But like I said, it's an undervalued position, and he has a ton of talent. And I know here was some teams coming up looking at him very strongly. So you pretty much had to get up a little bit if that was your guy. They move up, they get their guy, and I like it. It's a good pick. New England Patriots. Now this is just the universe delivering you something perfect. Is there anybody out there that doesn't think Mac Jones in New England is just the perfect fit? You have a guy that likes to be in the pocket, doesn't necessarily help you when things break down and get off script, but in the New England passing game, that's not really an issue. They get it out quick, they get it out precisely, and that's what Mac Jones can do for you. If you want Mac Jones to go to a system where you're going to ask him to run around and not have a lot of protection and hold on to the ball too long, he's going to have horrible success. His ceiling's not that high. He's not the kind of quarterback that can bail you out and carry a team like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. What he is a guy who can manage a system and put the ball where it needs to be on time. So I think there was very few spots Mac Jones ends up where I think he has immediate success. And the Patriots it was at the top of that list. He's going to do exactly what they want him to do, and I think they'll have some success. Now, this is going to depend strongly on Bill Belichick's ability to bring in skill position players. That's been the problem for a while now. Belichick gets an A++ as head coach. He gets an F at general manager in finding offensive talent, especially at that skill position. So if they can get some players in there and help Mac Jones out, it could go very, very well with that coaching staff. But we'll see him compete against Cam Newton. He'll likely start the season on the bench. That will help him out as well. And there you go. New England has their quarterback. Arizona, Zaven Collins, a little bit of a surprise for me. I thought they would go a couple other directions. Their front seven isn't awful. They have some needs in the secondary. Everybody can use offensive linemen at this point, so I'm tired of repeating that. But they go with Zaven Collins. He's an outstanding addition to a good linebacking core, and he's going to help them a lot in the passing game, defending against those short and middle of the field passes. He does that very, very well. I think you probably could have traded down from that position. I didn't see a lot of mocks where Collins was going in the top 20 or the top 25 even for that matter. So you probably reached in terms of his draft position, but He's a very versatile player, and they like that. If you look at the guys they brought in defensively over the past few years, they're all very, very versatile. You can move them around, and that helps you in disguising your coverages, disguising your blitz packages, confusing offenses and young quarterbacks. And I see what they're doing there, and it's good. It's just you probably could have traded down quite a few picks and still ended up with that player. Average grade for the Cardinals. At 17, the Las Vegas Raiders, they always make it interesting, don't they? They go with Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama, a tackle that really has some talent. That's not necessarily the issue. It's that there was better tackles. But they took him over Darrisaw, which Darrisaw was my third. Christian Darrisaw was my third best tackle available in this draft. They go with Alex Leatherwood instead. Now, Mayock and Gruden, they always go a little off center. They never really do what you expect them to do. Certainly in the first round, they've had a lot of success in the second and third. I think there's some players there, Christian Wilkins, Clelin Ferrell. He has potential. We'll see if it works out over the next couple of years. So I think a couple of these odd picks they made in the first round over the first few years of the Gruden-Mayock regime could eventually work out in their favor. But initially, it's bringing some heat on them, well-deserved heat, and this pick is not going to help. Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama, like I said, it's not a matter of his talent. There is some talent there. He's going to help them. Their offensive line needs some help. He's definitely going to help and participate and play and all those things. It's just a matter you probably could have got a much better player at that position with Darrisaw. Pardon me. The Miami Dolphins, with their second pick at 18, go with Jalen Phillips out of Miami. Not a surprise to see him go with a local guy. Now, Phillips is an interesting prospect. He essentially quit or took some time off for some concussion issues, which is awful. You hate to see that with a young guy. But if you're having college concussion issues already in college, there's a pretty good likelihood that those things are going to continue in the NFL. You hope not. You hope he has a long, healthy career, but it is a risk. Now, on the bright side, these are free picks for the Dolphins. They have so many picks. They've had so many over the past few years. That is kind of a luxury for them. They can draft a risk. They can bring in a little risk. It's just not something I would have done. They go with him over Kwity Paye, which is probably going to end up looking bad in the future. I don't like that pick. His talent is, all these guys in the first round is an incredibly talented first round this year in terms of athletic ability and the guys projecting to get on the field early. Outstanding draft for that. So none of these guys do I really worry about their athleticism, but with Jalen Phillips in particular, you're going to worry about his health. I wish him all the best. They did need a little juice off the edge down there. The edge players they brought in over the past few years, free agency and whatnot, has not really worked out great for them. So I understand them wanting to bolster that position with that pick. I just would have gone with a different guy, probably Kwity Paye. Washington at 19, they go with Jamin Davis. Their front seven is already stacked. He's a bit of a project. He needs a little bit of time in a pro style or playing against pro talent. He's a bit raw. Playing in Kentucky, he didn't see a lot of great talent in terms of his competition, but he is, again, another guy that's physically gifted, and he's going to a front seven that's already stacked. So given that, I think that sets him up very much for success in the league. He'll be able to learn from some pretty good players, play behind some pretty good players, some outstanding players. So I understand the pick. The problem with the pick is it really didn't address any of your major needs. There's plenty of things on both sides of the ball. Your secondary needs help, and there's the best safety, Moehrig, who's still available. Moehrig's going to go in the second round and be a phenomenal steal for somebody, the best safety in the draft. But there's some things on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know what you're doing, with your quarterback position. Washington, always a hard team to judge. You never know how much influence Dan Snyder has in terms of getting involved with the draft. I live in Cincinnati. Mike Brown causes us troubles all the time. Hashtag John Ross. But I don't know. I wouldn't have gone with this pick. It helps the depth at the linebacking position, but a lot of other needs they could have addressed. It's not that I don't like the player. I just don't necessarily like the fit. The Giants go with Kadarius Toney. Now, this was an interesting pick. He's wildly talented, especially after the catch. He's got all kinds of wiggle, incredible hip control. He can get low and get balls for you. He can go high and get balls for you. Just a freak athlete. I like Kadarius Toney a lot. But you already got 3 pretty good receivers in New York and a tight end that can catch the ball pretty well as long as he can stay healthy. So you pay to bring in Golladay. It was a big swing. You probably overpaid for him, but you needed a guy, and he's a good one to bring in. So if he can stay healthy, you got Sterling Shepard and the other kid, Slayton, Darius Slayton. So Toney comes in essentially as your 4th receiver, and then you got Evan Ingram, who's a very good pass-catching tight end. So his ability to get on the field, when you're talking about a top 20 pick, you want a guy that can play a lot of snaps for you. And I'm a little bit surprised that it's not a bad pick. He's a great talent. I'm just surprised they went that way. I expected a defensive guy there. Kwity Paye would have been a great addition to the Giants' defense, the position they really, really need to get better at. So, and Paye went. I keep calling him Page. Paye went next to the Colts, but yeah, an odd decision a little bit from the Giants, but they do get an outstanding player. Kwity Paye out of Michigan. He's a bit raw, but he is phenomenally talented. Probably the best pass rusher in this draft in terms of getting off the ball and smacking a guy around and getting around the edge and all that. I like him a lot. I'm wildly surprised that he lasted to 21. We've talked about some defensive players that went in front of him and some other fits that would have worked for him earlier in the draft, but he does end up slipping to 21, and the Colts get him. They haven't had a great pass rush in a long time. Certainly nothing like we saw with Freeney and Mathis years ago. So they want to get better at that position, and I think they have. An outstanding pick, A++ for the Colts. They've been doing some interesting things, and if they can get a little more protection, they obviously have a good offensive line. Quentin Nelson is amazing, but I think they could use a little more depth at the offensive line to help Wentz be comfortable. Wentz does not do well when the play breaks down, so I expect them to address offensive line later in the draft. But they go defense early on with Kwity Paye. I think they get good value, and I like it a lot. Caleb Farley, this would have been my favorite cornerback in the draft, even above J.C. Horn. I like him a lot. All the tools are there. Coverage, press, he does everything well. The problem is he had back surgery. And I can tell you, back in 2019, in a torn ACL, a year or two before that, I think. But he's an incredible player. I had back surgery. I was 35 years old, 36 years old. Anytime you break through that muscle that protects the spinal column, I am not a doctor, not by any stretch, but this is what doctors told me during my surgery. Anytime you get through those group of muscles that protect the spinal column, the recovery and the healing, it's always a little difficult. It's it's their spinal column. There's a lot of stress there. So I know after my back surgery, I've never been the same. I used to play drums for a living. I can't really do that as long and as well anymore. Things like that, playing golf, I can't do that anymore. So I know from personal experience how badly a back surgery can affect what you do moving forward. Now, obviously, I was in my 30s and getting old and not in great shape, but and he's a phenomenal athlete, a freak athlete in his prime, at the top of his game with the best resources and recovery and surgeries and all these things available. So I expect he's going to have success in the NFL, and I expect them to limit his snaps early on enough to help that along. But there is some risk there. The Titans need help at that position. They're willing to take that risk. They get a phenomenal player by all accounts, a very good locker room guy as well. I haven't heard anything negative about Caleb Farley. But can he stay healthy? That'll be the question. I certainly hope so. I'm rooting for him. The Titans heading in the right direction. I kind of expected them to take Kellen Mond here. I like Mond a lot. It would be a very good situation for him to sit behind, excuse me, Tannehill for a year or two and learn. I thought that would have been a very good pick for them to maybe trade down and look at him. But instead, they stick there and go with Caleb Farley. Hopefully it works out. A little bit of risk. But Titans heading in the right direction. Their future of the quarterback position is really going to determine what kind of success they have moving forward. Minnesota Vikings, one of my best picks in this draft, one of my favorite picks. They get Darrisaw at 23. He should not have been available at this point. It addresses a major need for them. Kirk Cousins, another one of those guys who really struggles when the pocket breaks down. He's going to get on the field for them immediately and be a big upgrade to that offensive line. Mike Zimmer, I think has done well there. I like him. I like his ability to coach, and I think he's got some good coaches around him. So I think Darrisaw's ended up in an absolutely perfect spot where he can contribute immediately. Good job by the Minnesota Vikings. Sometimes they're a team that takes some chances and some risks. Not this time. They go with Darrisaw, the sure thing, at 23. Okay, got good value on him, and he's going to be very productive for a long time there in Minnesota. At number 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers take Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. Now, nobody, and we got Travis Etienne coming up right behind him. So nobody is questioning the talent of these two running backs. Najee Harris, excellent. Everybody saw him in college. Outstanding pass catcher. Very good hands for a running back. Good explosive burst and speed out on the edge. Not necessarily a track star, but enough speed to get you where you're going. So Najee Harris, outstanding talent. Travis Etienne, a lot of the same things I just said about Harris you can say about Travis, but it's the idea of picking running backs at 24 and 25. It's such a violent position, and these so many running backs are burn up by the time their rookie contract's up. That's just the reality of the position, which is why you don't see a lot of them go in the first round anymore. But with Pittsburgh in particular, they have a lot of holes. They've lost some players on that offensive line. You got a quarterback that's very old. I don't know how comfortable I'd be with him taking too many hits. There were linemen available. Jenkins would have been a good pick for them here. I understand what they want to do. It's Pittsburgh. They want to run the ball down your throat. He's got good one-cut motions, movement, which reminds me a little bit of Le'Veon Bell. So I kind of get that. He kind of fits the running back mold, and not only in terms of driving the ball up the field, but also in terms of how he cuts and moves. So he fits what the Steelers want to do, but good luck doing it behind that offensive line. I do not see a lot of success for him early on unless they find a way to address the offensive line later in this draft. They're picking a little lower. They're going to have to move up probably into the second round if they want to get a guy that can contribute immediately. You do have the best center still available on the board going into the second round today. So that would be a very interesting player for them to look at if they wanted to move up. But I hate this pick. I like the player. I hate the pick. I like the fit. I like the player. I like the fit. But I still hate the pick. You could have traded down, I think. You could have waited into the second or third round and still got a running back that can contribute immediately. That's kind of the nature of the beast right now. Bring in the young running back in the second or third round that can contribute and use him up while he's on that rookie contract. I know it doesn't sound nice, but that's the way it is. And they go a different direction. They get the running back first, put him behind a bad offensive line with an aging quarterback, and I just don't see that working out. Like I said, you better address some other things later in this draft. Jacksonville Jaguars at 25 used their second pick on Travis Etienne. They got the Clemson quarterback. Now they got the Clemson running back. We talked a little bit earlier about Urban Meyer and how he's going to have success early. Again, he's a good player. He's a good prospect. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He does everything you want. Probably a little more explosive in terms of his edge speed and getting out in front of players than Najee Harris. I think I might have had Etienne ranked above Najee Harris if I was in charge of a team, but I am not. So an outstanding player, but again, a position you can get later in the draft. Jaguars have so many needs. They want their new young quarterback to feel comfortable, so they got him a bit of a security blanket there. They had a lot of success with Henderson, the running back they brought in last year, so now you got a bit of a two-headed monster, but you need to address the offensive line. You need to address the back end of that defense. There's a lot of things you need in Jacksonville. I don't know if I would have made that pick. I don't think it helps you as much immediately as some of these other players could have, including the next player, Greg Newsome. He went 26 to Cleveland. This is an outstanding pick. I am in Cincinnati, so you can imagine Cleveland, Baltimore, and the Steelers are not my favorite teams. And I often giggle when the Browns make their first round pick because sometimes it's a little weird. But this time they got it absolutely right. Greg Newsome could have gone earlier in this draft. Probably a top 20 player. He goes at 26. I love it. It addresses a need for them. Northwestern, shout out to you. A big time class coming out this year. A lot of players getting drafted in the NFL for a smaller school, and that's always good. All right. It's just good. It's a good fit. They need a cornerback. Greg Newsome, outstanding player. He gets his hands on a lot of balls. He's quick. He can come up and press. He can drop back and cover. In some exotic packages, if you need him to go back and play a little safety for you, or come up and play inside the box, he's that versatile. I love the pick. Good job, Cleveland. Don't get to say that every year. I like it. Next, you got the Baltimore Ravens. Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota, wide receiver. Outstanding pick. They needed somebody to go outside of the kid Marquise Brown, who looks really good, not really a number one. I think Bateman's going to end up being your number one with the other kid on the other side, or maybe moving into the slot. But it was a position of need for them. They really needed to get better in that group, and I think they did an outstanding job with Rashad Bateman. New Orleans, I hated this pick. You're sitting there at 28. You have a massive quarterback problem. Instead of addressing that with Kellen Mond or maybe somebody else that you might like, Kyle Trask or whoever, instead of trading back and trying to do something like that, you sit there and you take Peyton Turner. I had seen nobody that had Turner going in the top 40. And he goes there at 28 to New Orleans. They have so many needs. Jameis Winston and Peyton Hillis. What's the kid's name? You know what I'm talking about. That's not the answer at quarterback. The answer to their quarterback problems is not currently in the building. That should have been a priority for them in this draft, especially considering there's not a lot of people too hot about the quarterback class coming out in next year's draft. So I just don't like it. They overdrafted him. He should have gone a little bit later. He's got all the measurables. If you look at Peyton Turner, big, strong guy, not a huge um, uh, sample size in terms of how much he's been on the field during his college career, but he seems to have the size and the versatility to be a good player in the NFL. It's just not at that position. A guy you could have got probably in the middle of the second round. Instead, they goes to 28. It addresses a need. They need to get after quarterback better in New Orleans, but it's just not a pick I would have made. I don't like it at all. There were better options out there, including Jason Owe, who we'll talk about in just a minute. So just a bad pick. I don't like it. And maybe one of the best things about doing this video is we're going to be turning it on 3 years from now and see how absolutely wrong I am about everything. So I could be wrong about that pick coming up rather quickly, but man, I don't like it. I don't like it. Green Bay Packers, Eric Stokes, Georgia. I saw nobody having this cornerback ranked this high. There are plenty of other, probably 4 or 5 other corners who I would have ranked above him at this point in the draft. He's raw. He's very handsy. He's quick. He's got a lot of speed and athleticism, but he's not. I wouldn't call him a ball hawk or a guy that's going to get on his hands on a lot of balls. I just didn't see it. They saw something in him like they like. Now, the Rodgers to Denver trade, this could end up putting it, like I said, if they end up doing a swap of picks or whatever, Stokes could end up in Denver. But either way, I think he's overdrafted, a guy that you could have got much later. You could have traded back. There are other positions of need for the Packers. They just went with the cornerback, but it was last year in the first or second round? Second round, I think. So, yeah, an interesting pick. Moreg, that's another place Moreg could have been an instant contributor. So, yeah, a couple picks there in a row that I'm not a big fan of. Gregory Rousseau. This is a guy I saw. He went 30 to the Buffalo Bills. We're almost done now. Edge rusher, not really his game. He had more success in college rushing from the interior. So we haven't seen a defensive tackle go in this draft yet. The best one still available, Christian Barmore out of Alabama, still on the board for the second round. Somebody's going to get a great deal on him. And Mo Reg, there's some really good players. We'll go over a couple of them before we finish up here. But Gregory Rousseau, I saw him mocked as high as 20. I saw him mocked as low as 40. There was a lot of discussion on how his game's going to translate to the NFL. Me personally, I like him on the interior. I think if you put him out on the edge against elite tackles in the league, he's going to struggle. I think if you can move him inside, get him matched up against some guards and centers, guys that are just a little bit slower, a little bit less athletic than the tackle position, it will work to his strengths. A little bit of a risk, but he's going to a well-coached team. I love what the Bills have done there. The defense has played very well, especially their front seven. He's going to add some depth to that. But like I said, they got Ed Oliver, a big-time run stopper, an outstanding player. He's had some issues, so there's some risk with Oliver. So maybe they're bringing him a little protection in terms of somebody to play behind him. But Gregory Rousseau may end up inside. Don't expect a ton of pass rush out of him, even though he's listed as an edge player. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed. Keep an eye on his development, though. He is a phenomenal athlete with a big frame. Baltimore, go with edge rusher Jason Owe at 31. Outstanding. He's got all the measurables, everything you want. 6'5", 260 pounds, 40-inch vertical, a 4'4", 40. just an absolute beast. He probably should have gone higher. We've got edge rushers that went before him that I think he's much better than. And he's very raw, and he's going to an organization that has an incredible track record of developing young defensive talent. So I like the player, I like the pick, I like the fit. Outstanding job. Second pick by the Baltimore Ravens. They may have had the best first round. Chicago getting their quarterback was a big deal. We saw some very good picks early on. Baltimore bringing in the receiver and the edge rusher, both of them outstanding talents. They may have won the first round this year. That hurts me to say. Tampa Bay rounded out the end of the draft at 32. I really expected Kellen Mond to go here. I'm probably higher on Mond than a lot of other guys, but I thought it would have been a great opportunity for them to bring in Tom Brady's replacement, let him sit for a year or two and learn from the best. They have a journeyman quarterback as their backup right now that could have taught, I can't remember who's there, that could have taught Blaine Gabbert. So Blaine Gabbert could have, taught him for a couple years, and he wouldn't even have had to aggravate Tom Brady. So that would have been a great fit. But they don't go that way. They go with Joe Tryon, a guy who was projected on a lot of the lists that I saw to go probably in the second half of the second round. So it looks like they reach. Now the good news is that front seven is ridiculous, and they got a lot of guys on some really team-friendly deals, so he'll have an opportunity to sit and learn from some outstanding players. He won't have to contribute immediately, which is always a good thing for a young player. Tampa Bay, it's hard to argue with what they're doing right now. They're your Super Bowl champions, so I'm not going to kill them over this pick. I think there were better fits out there, better guys. The way that roster is built, this is really a luxury pick. They could really go after a guy that they like, even if it wasn't a guy that was projected to go that high, and it looks like that's what they've done. So not going to double guess the Super Bowl champions, but certainly not a pick I would have made. All right. There you go. 32 guys selected, heading to the NFL, dreams coming true, and all that stuff. Let's take a quick look at some of the guys that are still available at the top. This is according, who's listed? This is the PFF list. Their best available right now, Christian Barmore, defensive lineman out of Alabama. He'll be playing on the interior. Trevin Moehrig, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, out of TCU is a safety, best safety on the board. The best center on the board is still, or best center in the draft is still available. The best safety in the draft is still available. So there's some really good talent. The Owosu Koromoa, I expected him, a linebacker out of Notre Dame. I expected him to go in the first round. He did not. Elijah Moore easily could have gone in the first round. Wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Walker Little out of Stanford. I've seen him. PFF's very high on him. They have him as the fifth best right now. There's a lot of other lists where have him down a bit. Personally, when I looked at the tape, I saw a lot that I liked about Walker Little. I didn't look into him very much until just the past couple 24 hours, really. But I saw a lot that I liked there. Trevor Marshall, Asante Samuel Jr. Easily could have been the second or third cornerback off the board. He's still available. So Tevin Jenkins, a guy that I really like. I'm hoping that the Bengals have an opportunity to draft him at 5. Offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State, a guy that will likely move inside, but that's exactly what the Bengals need. There's a lot of teams needing offensive line help. Dylan Radunz, another offensive lineman that's going to be available. Samuel Cosmi, I looked into him a little bit more this morning. I like him a lot more than I did yesterday. Dyami Brown, an outstanding speed receiver out of North Carolina. A guy that I think is ranked a little too low on most boards. I'm interested to see where he goes. He brings a lot of speed, and unlike a lot of speed guys, he can actually run some routes. There's a lot of guys who you need to put them on a 9 route and let them go, and that's about it. But he can do some different things with his speed, and I like that a lot. Jabril Cox, linebacker out of LSU, outstanding college career. So there's there's plenty of guys here in the second round. It's going to be extremely interesting to see how that all works out. All right. This has been a ton of fun. That's my opinions on the draft. They're probably all wrong, but hey, there you go anyway. Let me know what your opinions are down in the comments below. I always love talking to you guys. Usually I thought about doing this live, but went a different route. So usually I sit and talk live. If you guys want to, if you like this video, let me know. I can do more stuff like this where I'm talking about different players, different teams across the NFL, different scenarios. So if you like it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know too, because that helps me as well figure out what I can do differently and what I can improve on. So you guys are always awesome. I do appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback. Hopefully you enjoyed. You got 2 more days, a lot of hours of NFL draft fun coming up. I hope you enjoy it. I know I am. There you go. All right. I am Preston with Preston Sports, Preston_sports on Twitter. We'll post there, keep you updated on all the good stuff we got going on. Let me know what you think. And, yeah, be good, have fun, and I'll see you next time.